Thank you for accepting this invitation. We will begin in a few minutes. In the logic of strengthening multiculturalism, we have asked today's speakers to speak in their mother tongue, taking into account the diversity of the audience that is joining us from all over Latin America and the Caribbean, and even we have people from other regions. If you have any questions, you can use the question and answer function available in Zoom. We will be monitoring our social networks, so we invite you to participate and ask questions through them. Welcome to this second session of the knowledge mobilization cycle, where we will be debating with the protagonists in the territory, those who can face today by day the different educational challenges where strategies are being implemented to strengthen the use of learning assessment for educational improvement. For us, it is an honor to have had the international organizations in attendance yesterday. Today, we will have a regional perspective from GSA UNESCO, CXC, and a national perspective from Nicaragua and St. Lucia. We thank institutions present yesterday, ACER, OECS, OEI, and SUMA. And of course, we also want to thank our speakers today who have kindly accepted this invitation. I would like to show you or to introduce Raul Chacon, and he is in charge of knowledge and innovations in SUMA. Thank you, Raul, for being here with us. Thank you, Rosa Maria. I wanted to take this, start this second day, and I want to thank those who make this work possible. First, the countries we work with. These are the group of countries that are partners of GPE in Central America and the Caribbean and the Eastern Caribbean especially, and then the region, Latin America and the Caribbean, in this effort to create a place or an instance for learning, for questions, for reflection. Yesterday, we received a lot of questions. Some are visible to be responded today, but the others are open for future reflections. We want to contribute from the discussion and from what is happening in the local spaces, in the educational institutions, in the subnational levels, regional levels, international level. And of course, it is bi-directional. It's not bottom up, but it's also to understand that there are some other things that are being discussed that will contribute to the development of our region. We have also talked about the necessary balance between evaluation, measurement of summative character, and with the formative that are very strong in our region, and also in terms of the balance between the sample evaluations and the census evaluations. There are different perspectives, and that has to be analyzed in the context, how this is informed, how the decisions are informed. That is very important for us, how from our countries, from the schools, these decisions are being informed with the emergency sense that we want to highlight. Yesterday, we highlighted that and we placed that in the center, in the core of the education, the crisis in the learning, in the global learning that has been, that has also grown in our region. And last, we want to a point that we are in this cycle of exchange mobilization around the use of evidence. And this is very important because we see in the center the educational improvement, considering that in the center, in the middle, we see the students. That's from where we build this education evaluation system in a more complex way, and we complemented it with information systems, CIGES, EMIS, data systems that are stronger now and that are part of the objectives of mobilization and production and use of evidence. With these words, I want to invite you all to consider this national and regional outlook, considering the evaluations and measurements of education with very important speakers. Each one of you will present in detail. The question we wonder or we ask ourselves is, what's the reason for these evaluations, measurements? What are the decisions they are conveying, informing, and what's the material that we should design so our children are positively impacted? Thank you so much. We start with the second day that I hope it is as productive as it was yesterday. Thank you, Raul. And we would like to tell you that we will have 5 speakers today, and we will also have a conversation instance. And without going any further, I want to introduce Florencio Ceballos. He is the Senior Program Specialist IDRC Canada, who will be welcoming us for this second session. Thank you, Florencio. Thank you, Rosa. Thank you to all the organizers, and I greet you all. For those who are participating from the different organizations, I can read that we have almost 70 people. It's a pleasure for me to be here. It's been a pleasure to be here and see familiar faces, people that we have been working with for some time, and also we see new faces, new people. I want to start saying that Kickoff GPE is this. This is a global effort for generating and motivating and mobilizing relevant, localized evidence, evidence that is in the service or at the service of the actors, of the educational actors in the region. And our role is to execute the research grants in education and also create or generate these spaces where this evidence that is generated in the research is shared, is circulated, and it scales. And that's why I acknowledge the role of OECS and SUMA in Kick Slack, because they are helping or they are making sure this happens. And to be more specific, talking about this cycle, I think it presents or it shows some questions that we see based on the learning crisis that we are facing in the region that our panelists mentioned yesterday. And I think there is a question about what are the indicators, what is the methodology, what is relevant, or what is better or best to capture and measure the learning, what are the monitoring ways that can show the impact, or, and I would add, what indicators, what methodology, what measurements allow that this evidence incorporates an inclusion and equity perspective. And I think this is what is interesting about this type of instance, and it is about how. It's a more practical question. How this is communicated, how this evidence circulates, how do we work with the multiple actors, stakeholders, that so changes are produced, how do we strengthen the capacity of ministries to collect and use this evidence about the evaluation of the learning outcome, what's the role of the different stakeholders. I think it is important that the discussion about the evidence is not only a discussion about contents, but there should be a discussion about the forms that those contents, that knowledge is effectively and localized, that can be incorporated into the public policy processes. And one more question that I think that is quite interesting or relevant, and Kix has informed a lot about our work. For example, in terms of EMIs, how do they bring this evidence to the schools, to the local educational systems, to communities, to the academia, and their debates at a regional and national scale? How to go further and create added value or focus rather than those reports, but having these models in which evidence is used at a local levels and at school levels, and what are the innovations that can be promoted and scaled so this is possible. I think this is relevant, that we have been considering that we will like go deep in these type of questions, where the countries tell us about their perspectives and what they are doing. I'm very happy. I have a lot of questions. I'm eager to learn many things and to listen to you. Thank you so much, and I hope this day is full of good activities. Thank you, Flora, and it's very important for what you have said. We thank IDRC for supporting these conversation moments or instances, and that is not only content, but these reaches the local spaces. Now we have the presentation of Carlos Enrique, who is the coordinator of the Latin American Laboratory for the Evaluation of the Quality of Education, LLCE, in UNESCO. And he will be talking about the ERSA test for the planning and improvement of educational policy in national contexts. Carlos Enriquez holds a master's degree in management and public policy from the Universidad de Chile, and also he's an engineer from the Universidad de Santiago de Chile. For more than 2 decades, he's worked in the education sector at different levels and has held positions of responsibility both in the public and in the university sectors. In his career, he was the general manager of the Measurement Center, MIDE UC, of the Catholic University in Chile, educational director of the school centers of Maipú, one of the largest places in Chile, and executive secretary of the Agency for Quality Education in the Ministry of Education during 2014 to 19. He has also served as a professional expert and consultant of the civil service for his country to select public managers as a Thank you, Carlos, for being here with us. The floor is yours. Thank you, Rosa, Florencio, Raul. Thank you, Kix, for this opportunity of contributing in the use of evidence for the education from this partnership between UNESCO and YESE. I do not have that skill of the 21st century of summarizing, and please, Rosa, help me with the time. And I think I heard very good questions today from Florencio, and we want to contribute in this to this reflection action from Latin America and the Caribbean. We work with all the countries, that's Spanish-speaking countries plus Brazil, not with the other countries of the Caribbean, but I would like to open these spaces for conversation, for the dialogue with Nicaragua, with Dominican Republic, and other countries. First, I would just want to tell you that we are a consortium as other global and international evaluations. This is a consortium that Latin America and the Caribbean, these 19 countries plus Brazil, state something similar to what Florencio mentioned, how in 1994 we can build policies based on the evidence. Our region has a lot of things to improve, lots of space for improvement, but those who thought about this 30 years ago, how based on the evidence they could make decisions that would contribute to the improvement and build capacities for that challenge. And our consortium has a main feature in which countries are an active part in the definition, the technical definition, technical construction, and the more strategic definitions. Other countries participate in other international consortiums. Our idea is to assure quality considering the voice of the other countries in what is related to our study. So ERCE and LLECE, it's a democratic space with a technical role, but with great participation from the different countries. And I'm saying this because our space is defined as a monitoring space for the 2030 agenda, especially with the objectives of, sustainable development. And today we're building this fifth study. There are some countries that are joining us. Now, and from this perspective, we are very happy to have new countries in what we are developing in terms of this joint outlook and in the incorporation of Venezuela. That was the last one to join us. I'm saying this because I can also tell you about ERCE 2025. The action focus, this is a summative and sample evaluation. We wanted to build a regional curriculum. We map all the curricula from the different countries. So based on that revised common curriculum, we define a percentage that exists in all the countries, and that is evaluated. Second, they define primary between third grade and sixth grade. Others define that at the end to see the skills for the world of work. And so that hopefully all the educational systems make decisions. They place in the center the well-being of students. There is innovation, capacity building, but the action framework is how to improve in different levels. And in very fast terms, we evaluate third and sixth grade, writing, reading, and mathematics and sciences in sixth grade. This is focused in the common curriculum of knowledge and skills. Also, we have questionnaires to teachers, to students, to parents and directors or managers, and this is called ERCE study. This is a regional explanatory and comparative study in order to understand, in order to help to support in this understanding of where we are and what we can do to improve. And we decided to make the decision before pandemic of showing this signal to be open to social emotional skills. Today we have three: empathy, opening to diversity, and school self-regulation. And in 2025 we will add cooperative work and self-efficacy. I'm saying this because very briefly, this is the cycle from the beginning of the curriculum analysis with all countries, and then this analysis will build a specification table, valuation of the instrument, the pilots revise, analyze for the definite application, and the analysis. I'm saying this because as we mentioned this question, how this contributes to improvement, how can this effort that all countries are performing, and here we have one of those countries. We have the planning director from Nicaragua. So what does how does this help them? Improving is not easy. Improving is difficult, and it's quite complex. This is a photo of this was me when I was younger. No, I'm just kidding. But not all data is okay for everybody. So we are making an effort in how the summative evaluation contributes to the definitions or to the evaluations that can be done, recognizing that there are other evaluation forms, indicators, subsystems, such as diagnostic evaluation and formative evaluation that are part of a greater system that is connected to other systems in order to contribute to the improvement. I'm saying this because this is complex. Not all things work for everybody. And how do we use the information to improve the public policies, the implementation? How is the improvement center? And then the teaching. So we have this action theory in which we see the products that we do or that we show will have an impact in the policies at a macro level, meso level, and micro level. That is a definition, and I think that we do need to work together, people from planning, curriculum, evaluation, implementation, so we can have a common ground, a common information, and use it. And how can we act with this? And I think that there is a great challenge here, and how we translate this information that we have in the room for improvement, the strengths, the weaknesses, we translate that into plans that have goals and actions that will have an impact, and then understanding that there is this complexity of the educational system that is greater. I'm just saying that we have worked in the Ministry of Education, and many times what the minister says is seen in spaces that do not have a dialogue. And it's not because people don't want to talk or do not want to dialogue, but it's that sometimes we have the ones that work in the curriculum, those who work in other areas. So I am saying this because when talking about the evaluation, we have to say that we have a great task, a great implementation, but how do we translate this into products and actions that contribute to the improvement function? And I'm just saying that we are in one of the important elements, such as the summative evaluation, diagnostic evaluation, formative evaluation, but this is regional and it reports at a national level that contributes to the improvement action. And from this perspective, we have tried to to assure quality, and this means that maybe I can have evaluations, but if they are not reliable and they do not have constructs that create reliable information, we cannot make good decisions. Second, the importance of recognizing where we are progressing and where we have more difficulties in order to reach or to see where we can help more, because we know that those who do not have like a Spanish as a mother tongue, at least they will have at least 1 year of delay. In this case, the socioeconomic group has 2 years of delay. So this would allow us to direct or to address or to move our efforts to the actions and resources. And second, it's not only a number, but how this number in an evaluation is translated into an implication of public policies, and also a pedagogic implication that a child or a student is in level 1 is a student that cannot read a text, cannot read a paragraph, is a boy or a girl that is on decodifying, that does not have the reading speed, and we are talking about 4 out of 10 children in the region are in this level number 1. So it's not that we say that to the regions, to the region, to the countries, we are concerned about this, but how it has an importance or an effect or an impact in those who make decisions, those who build policies, and also for the school teachers and for the directors of schools. We understand there are some limitations here, but how this summative evaluation understands the user, let's say ministry directors that are the main ones, but also it is focused in the user director of a school center and a teacher, and how to build this knowledge and skills progression to help this progression of knowledge and skills that we want to reach for our children.
Por otro lado, en el tema de habilidades
And
socioemocionales,
also, when talking about social emotional skills,
We need to know how those numbers can give us and provide us with information. In self-school regulation, our children mostly they follow rules, but when they face a problem, they do not ask us significant adults, what does it mean? This is a goal that it is accomplished in our schools beyond the difficulties that our teachers may tell us, but how can we create that trust? So when there's a problem, we get that information in order to work, support teachers in that sense. So in this space, 2025, when we make the decision of what construct to assess, there are many different frameworks, national, international frameworks. We're given a sign with this group of countries in a construct that has to do with something which is more individual, with the persistence, with the work, in terms of what has to do with individual development, but also with the work in terms of cooperation related to cooperation, which is something a little bit more collective. So here we are adding, and we could assessment other things, but our definition has to do with an individual side, such as self-efficacy, and a collective one, which is cooperation. That is also behind what we assess, is not only keep on assessing and more, but which are the signs given to schools, teachers, and educational policies. In this review, this information, not only we need to observe learning, this complementary information tells us that a teacher, I mean, the child declares that the teacher takes care of them, that shows interest, that is correlated or has a correlation, in this case associated to a bigger development of these social emotional skills. So with this information, in all of the countries participating in this, we can get to the thought that the teacher, it is not, it makes a difference. It is not the same having one teacher or the other. It gives some cognitive information or learning, but also in these social emotional skills. Now, talking about for the decision making, not only we are having or considering this regional report that we had up until 2013, but from 2019 on, there's an intention. And Florencio, I'm trying to contribute in the questions that you were asking. I'm not giving you the answer, though. We need to have input for the decision makers and also for countries which are implementing these improvements. We cannot just simplify rankings, which sometimes are there and are available, but we need to enrich this information for each of the countries. Therefore, in order to use this evidence in education, we do need to diversify and we need to understand that this is something complex. Secondly, we need more instruments, more tools for different decisions. And this, it is not enough by external capabilities, but also with the internal capabilities development. So that's why what we do has a focus in the construction of capacities, capabilities. So what we do, it is the ministries are allies. What we do necessarily requires them to be the main actors, because though they have plenty or there's plenty of difficulties or interference, they can advance. Our process of development of capacities and capabilities, it is thought for implementing the cycle of 2025, but it also wants to go beyond in order to contribute to the usage, actions, and also for countries to advance in the construction of their own assessment national systems. And many of you have advanced on that. And I believe that that helps a lot in that sense. I still have a couple of minutes. So how do we advance in evidence for this core task, which is improving? We have understood that it is not enough with regional information. We do require and contribute to a context of our region. So that's why we're making an effort in order to keep on contributing in that conversation. Also, we have taken information from PISA with the region, countries of the region, or the ones having national assessment, so we can work all together. And we see some ways of using and to find common elements, allowing us to help identifying, and maybe creating information for those groups and supports that are required. And finally, I insist, even though this assessment, summative assessment, it is global, regional, and national, it has some limitations for the usage of the improvement with teachers and schools. And we have defined that we need to go as far away as possible. So we have created some contributions for the teaching. When teachers ask us, so what now? What should I do? So here's a contribution for the teaching. I mean, for the first time in social emotional skills that we hope to publish in March, and we'll tell teachers over here, there are some elements so you can own or you can also modify or work on. So you can articulate with your colleagues in order to develop these skills. And also, we don't just tell them there's a figure there, but here there are some effective strategies so we can advance in this work of moving this when we talk about levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. In Latin America, you talked about this yesterday, 1 out of 2 in PISA, they are in level 1. But what does that mean? And what do we do in order to move it or to take it to level 2? Or in mathematics, 3 out of 4 are level 1. If you tell me the situation is even more difficult, complex in mathematics, in reading, all the countries are doing something, even though the situation is difficult, but in mathematics, it is even more difficult. That information tells us that this element contributes a little bit in on that direction. And from the laboratory, what we have tried to do, it is our backbone, it is ERCE, which is the regional study comparative and explicative one, but we're also opening to a work with countries in order to pilot and to work together in order to articulate this in a conversation that requires new products and projects in order to understand and diversifying and collaborating to supporting. I say this because we just started a project, small project called ERCE Schools, ERCE Escuelas, and we'd like to replicate in some other countries. We want to create alliances on that line. It has to do with going to the information for teachers at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, school year. Why? We're not going to give solutions, but for the teachers to know at the beginning of the year if they're going to work. Infer information, but if the child does not codify, well, how can we work on that? Or if he's reading just words or phrases or sentences, well, how can we articulate the planning and the action considering where the students are, which not necessarily what they should learn. So with this, I don't want to level down, but if we keep on doing, keep on working that, and without observing where children are at, we cannot advance. And finally, just one more minute, please. The improvement is so hard, and we all try to do our best, but oftentimes we simplify things. Instruments are not useful for everyone, and what decision makers need to do not necessarily help, oftentimes for the assessment or the ways of assessment. Therefore, I insist, we do need to articulate information or ways of providing information for the better decision making in different levels. Secondly, we believe that we need to diversify information, not only at a national level, but also at a school level. This has to do with qualifications or feedback. Children, boys and girls, they care about their grades, but what's going to help them to improve, it is feedback. And thirdly, I insist, instruments must be at the service of the main stakeholders, decision makers and teachers. Finally, on this topic, one thing it is the syllabus, the curriculum, which has been defined, that we all define. Something different is what I plan in my classroom and what I do in my classroom, and something different is what students learn. The assessment allows me to have a feedback of this cycle. But if we don't feedback this feedback in the decisions and articulations that we need to do, well, clearly it's not going to be useful. So the questions that you're asking are big. They are huge ones. Capital letters, this alliance that you're creating, are having in the use of evidence for moving knowledge, and practice community helps a lot in order to help us And what we can do and how we do it makes a difference because the importance of articulating, the importance of creating topics that may answer or respond to create evidence for a better decision making and understanding that there are different scenarios. I hope I have contributed with my presentation. Greetings to all of the organizers and to all of the participants in South America and Latin America and the Caribbean. Thank you. Thank you, Carlos. Really interesting. And not everything helps or is serving for everything. But that's why it is a key element, the creation of local capacities. Thank you very much. So now we're going to present Dr. Wayne Wesley, Executive Director, and he's going to be talking about the strategies on the use of assessment, national assessment for the Caribbean. Dr. Wesley is a transformational leader with over 30 years of service in education and training at a regional and international level. As an experienced chief executive with experience in diplomacy, cooperative governance, institutional development, and strengthening of crisis management, he is providing strategic leadership for the reposition of the CXC as a regional enterprise, affecting greater regional impact and global influence. Currently, Dr. Wesley serves on the CARICOM New School Model Committee and the Caribbean Community Administrative Tribunal. Thank you very much, Dr. Wesley. The floor is all yours.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Escuchamos perfectamente.
Great. Oh, just a minute here, please. You see my screen now? All right, thank you very much. Let me first start by congratulating the organizers on this event. CXC is actually pleased to be participating in this most important regional webinar. Certainly, CXC, having celebrated the last 50 years of existence within the region, view the importance of understanding and utilizing data to inform decision making. And in that regard, we would have been doing a couple things in that respect, and I'll share with you today a couple of the things we have been doing, and hopefully we'll have some time for further questioning and answer. So I'm asked to speak on strategies and lessons from the use of national assessment for educational improvement in the Caribbean. And so I will be coming from a regional perspective in this regard. I will do anonymized assessment of one of the countries, but we'll proceed accordingly. So CXC has in 2022 launched what we call CXC Data Intelligence Gateway. And this launch was for us to put together a system that can begin to track students, institutions, and the region's performance across a wide range of information and data relevant to policy decision making. And so my next slide, I'm just going to play this little clip about what CDIG is, and then I'll make a presentation.
The CXC Data Intelligence Gateway represents the digital transformation of the Council's examinations performance data. It is designed to provide stakeholders with access to relevant and meaningful data for research, policy development, and educational impact assessment. In support of this initiative, CXC's data governance framework has been enhanced to provide a comprehensive and robust architecture for data management, security, and access. These are important pillars for trust, confidence, and data integrity. This initiative, therefore, exemplifies the creativity of the staff in responding to the need for greater access to relevant and meaningful data. CXC is transforming for greater regional impact.
So in this regard, we see the Caribbean Examination Council as not just an examining body anymore, but one that is attuned with what is happening in the region and how do we provide policy guidance and government with information that can be used to give them strategic guidance and direction as they seek to transform the regional educational system. In fact, right across the Caribbean currently, there is an intense effort by all member states in transforming the educational system. And that transformation is as a result of recognizing that we need to do more to ensure that the region's competitiveness, both regionally and internationally, would remain strong and vibrant going forward. So with this CXC Data Intelligence Gateway, we have begun to provide the region with information that is relevant. So for example, regional registration from 2018 to 2023 being displayed on the board. Now, as you can see, using 2018 as the base year, we have computed the difference in registration right across the region over the last 5 years. What you would recognize, and certainly we understand that in 2020, we moved from 529,000 to 523,000, which is a 6,000 drop from 2018. Of course, while COVID impacted us in 2020, it is really 2021 and 2022 that felt the impact in terms of enrollment, because prior to 2020, a lot of our students would have been enrolled and be ready to take the examinations. But during the COVID years, students would have been impacted. And you can see that from our registration numbers, 88,000 in 2021. That's a drop of 88,000, a decrease, and further decreasing in 2022 to 92,000. Of course, we have begun to see a reverse of that, an uptake. Let's look at this graphically to get a better picture. So right across those 5 years, you can see the trajectory is a downward movement. This trajectory, however, is looking somewhat better, an improvement. As you can see, the 2021 and 22 years, this year, 23, this year, our last year, we were at 45,000. Projected to 2024, this is projection. We have not yet gotten the full completion because students are still registering. But you can see that the trajectory is going back up in terms of the number of students being enrolled in our examinations. And this is crucial for us to understand as we begin to come up with new strategies going forward. This chart here now shows the regional performance data across 5 subjects. Business, and I use business as a marker for entrepreneurship, business, what you call introduction to business. And we use it as a marker for entrepreneurship because really entrepreneurship is done at the advanced level and at the CSEC level. My data here is actually at the CSEC level, which is the secondary level. Our CAPE subjects are really geared at the post-secondary. So the presentation you're looking at here is our Caribbean secondary proficiency examinations across 5 subjects: business, digital, which is information technology, language, mathematics, science, and the trend lines across for all 5 years. And as you can see, for mathematics, that trend line is going down. This is the blue trend line here for mathematics, going down. IT, which is our digital course, has the best performance so far in terms of the percentage passing. These represents percentage. So as you can see, in 2018, the percentage pass for digital and information technology is over 90%. And in 2023, it was just below 90%. So it's pretty much remaining within between the 80 and 90% passing range. However, as you can see, the challenge for us in terms of the 5 core subjects would be mathematics, because that is trending anywhere between 40% acceptable grades being received by the candidates registered and 50%. So here in 2018, we were at 50%. In 2020, we were over 50% as well. But 2021, 2022, we went down. And in 2023, we are making a little recovery there. And hopefully in 2024, we can see a better performance there. So from a policy perspective, analyzing from these 5 critical areas, IT, mathematics, science, and business, we can see where we need to put the focus. Language is also not as where we'd want it to be, but it is much better than mathematics. Language is the green indicator there. Now, when you look across for mathematics, for all countries across the region, and this is huge data for you to understand, but just to give you an idea, all countries across the region, they can see over the 3-year period, and on this graph, we are just representing 2018, 2020, and 2023 in terms of mathematics performance across member states. I have coded the member states so that you don't necessarily will know which country it is, but you get a feel for right across the region what the performance is like. And countries can use this particular information to begin to know where they are in relation to the region and their own performance. Further details can be added from an analysis of this nature in terms of regional performance. Clearly, we can see that country G5 and country VO are the ones that are leading the way in terms of digital technology. In terms of mathematics in 2020, and in 2021 that flipped because it went to country CO and country K8, as well as VO, being consistent there with their mathematics performance. So several analyses can be had by reviewing the data specific to your country and across the region. So that's at the regional level. If we look then at a more pointed evaluation, let's say any 5 subjects, and 5 subjects included mathematics. So over that same 5-year period, 5 subjects or more, the percentage receiving 5 subjects or more, but which include both mathematics and English. And as you can see, 6.9%. Those receiving any 5 subjects, not necessarily maths and English included, you can see the percentage falling. And what that means, the change from those 5 subjects with maths and English included, there is a cohort that we are losing, because it means that this cohort will probably have challenges entering universities, gaining employment for which mathematics and English is needed as a prerequisite for engagement. Certainly, it might have implications for the advancement to universities, because, of course, to matriculate into universities, you need maths and English. So if you look at this from a graphical perspective, you can see blue representing any 5 subjects over the 3 years, and orange representing 5 subjects, including mathematics. So this average 2% difference are those persons we are actually losing and we'll have to do some more work with in order to have them ready to take full advantage and increase the competitiveness of the region. Now, what's the economic impact of that? That group, and this is only from the registration, this did not include those students who did not register at all for writing the examinations. But at least from the examination standpoint, we are getting information that speaks to the performance and the quality of the graduates we are getting. This has an economic impact because it means that we will have to rework, and this is inefficient use of our resources, because the same students who would have gone through 18 years in secondary school, and after that 18 years, they have not achieved the requisite 5 subjects with maths and English included. You have to expend money to retrain or to teach, prepare them to write another examinations. So the same effort is repeatedly applied to the same group, and that is not the most efficient way of using our resources. So the policy implication here, because some of the things that I did not mention here, and I will talk about, is that we will have to begin to utilize summative and formative evaluation in a very strategic way in ensuring that while students are progressing through the education system, we're able to capture the competencies they have acquired. What we have recognized, the summative nature of our assessment is not allowing us to be able to determine what a student would have achieved as they progressed through the education system. And so us at the Caribbean Examination Council, through the CDIG operation, is now seeking to develop a mechanism whereby we will present a formal structure, standardized right across the region, for the capturing of very important information for those skills that are certifiable, but currently we are not certifying them. And so a structured mechanism will have to be in place if it is that we want to reduce the number of rework that exists in the system, where we are expending resources on the same group of persons to get them up to speed. This, as I said, stymied educational advancement because persons not having both maths and English can't advance. Diminished level of regional competitiveness because, of course, the creation of jobs and the moving to higher level knowledge-based economy, innovation, you're going to require persons who are performing at a particular level. And if the foundation, which is our secondary education system, is not producing enough individuals with the requisite skills and competencies to perform at that level, certainly the region's competitiveness would be impacted. The quality of the workforce, loss of job opportunities to take advantage of those job opportunities would be a challenge within the region. And of course, reduce capacity for innovation. If you don't have individuals with the requisite skills, certainly our ability to innovate will be stymied. Now, having all that data, we can also make an analysis at the national level. And I do here for those same 5 subjects. Remember, I spoke about digital technology, mathematics, English, science, and business. I have gone through a particular example for a country here and say at the national level, so all these subjects would make that up: English, mathematics, information technology, principles of business, and so. For Center 1, we came up with what we call quartile rankings. Center 2, quartile rankings. So even within a country, an analysis can now be done between centers as to their performance at the varying subject levels. And these can be used to create meaningful assessment so that institutions and government will know where and how to redirect the resources they have. So what is meant by these quartile analysis? First of all, our Q4 simply represents performance in the top 25%, simply meaning the center is performing better than 75% of all centers in that particular country. We can do this as well regionally, but I'm just showing you the power. Q3, quartile 3 would represent performance in the top 50, and you're just performing better than the average of the region. Q2, performance in the top 75, and you're simply performing better than 25% of all centers. And of course, Q1, performing better than 100% in the top 100%, but you're really just performing, you're at the bottom, right? You're not performing above those at that level. So what does it mean for institution comparative analysis? As you can see on the screen, the number of subjects that were ranked in those quartiles for those two centers. For quartile 2, where we're talking about 75% of them are, yes, not performing well, 2 subjects for center 2. Center 1 does not have any subjects performing at the Q2 level. At the Q3 level, center 1 has 2 subjects. Center 2 has 5 subjects that are ranked at that level. At quartile 4, center 1 has 5 subjects that would be so ranked. So what does that look like? For the subjects at center 1, quartile 4, the subjects that they have 5 persons performing better than 75% of the market: English, information technology, mathematics, physics, and principles of business. They don't have any performing at quartile 3. Well, yes, they have 2 subjects at quartile 3, biology and chemistry. They don't have any at quartile 1. This same analysis can be done for center 2, where center 2 does not have any at center 1, so it is blank because it is, sorry, center 2 doesn't have any at quartile 4, but at quartile 3, they have 5 subjects ranked at quartile 3: biology, chemistry, English, mathematics, and physics. At quartile 2, they have 2 subjects: information technology and principles of business. So right there within that country, a government can begin to determine how they're going to reallocate resources, which schools doing better in what, and how can we pair those schools if you want peer coaching and learning from each other. They can begin to say, you know, if you're going to have centers of excellence, which are the schools are doing? What is it that they're doing? What is it that their teachers are doing that cause these students to be performing? And within their own country can begin to rationalize the resource allocation. So what are the policy implications from all of this analysis? 1, resource allocation, as I've been saying. How you apply and give resources to deal with challenges that exist will be based on the performance and the category and the subgroup. Of course, with all of the data I just showed you, it's just a synopsis of what is possible. The data can also go down to the subject level by the content in that subject. That's where our analysis is going. So for example, we could say the schools that are performing at a particular level or below a particular quartile, these are the areas in mathematics, statistics, or matrices. We can actually pinpoint the areas that will need targeted intervention. So targeted intervention can be identified. With that targeted intervention, it might mean teacher capacity building. What do we need to do to enhance the capacity of teachers? What are the factors contributing to teacher performance? You know, students' activity too, because within the CDIG, our data intelligence gateway, we can actually pinpoint geographical areas as to where certain things and why certain performance perhaps is the way it is. And in that regard, begin to provide ministries with meaningful information that will help to guide their activities and how curriculum is structured. Formative and summative assessment are also critical areas for us to begin to think about. As I said earlier, summative evaluation will not give us the capability to do the kind of continuous summative assessment that we want to be able to make the credentials stackable. Coming up with other forms of credential, breaking up even the full qualification into micro-credentials so that we can begin to certify competencies, the competence as we go along, and thereby recognizing the work of the work students would have accomplished as they progress through the education system. So with all of this, we recognize the implication for curriculum is strong because with a regional examination, one of the things we discovered that scope and sequence in one school is different from the scope and sequence in another school. So even as you break down and try to streamline assessment on a progressive continuum, you will have to standardize the content covered so that students can be assessed accordingly from a regional perspective. At the national level, there would have to be flexibility that allows for them to utilize their own scope and sequence to determine what assessment is being carried out. So as an assessment body, we will have to develop the flexibility, which is what we are doing now with all of our electronic assessment, that can say, let's say you have completed statistics and want an assessment on statistics. Can we provide you with an assessment online to determine the student's grasp of the statistical principles at that point? Another country might determine matrices. So it depends on where you are on the syllabus. We'll have to strategize and ensure that the syllabus are harmonized in such a way that minimize disruptions. But it is important that we do that. Again, when we analyze the data, we are recognizing that a vast number of students still leaving the school system without the requisite number of subjects or certification. How do we begin to ensure? Is it that a student, having spent 18 years, the better part of their youthful life, in college or in secondary school, they have not achieved anything? How can we now begin to assess and certify those competencies they have achieved? And as we say here at the Caribbean Examination Council, we want to move to an affirmative approach where we give affirmation to what students have achieved rather than what they have not achieved, because you want to build confidence and you want to build their esteem as they seek to progress through the education system. Ladies and gentlemen, I have overspent my time, but I try as quickly as possible to present to you what we are doing as it relates to national assessment and using information from that national assessment to guide and give strategic policy directive to government, ministers, and ourselves as to how we facilitate regional assessment and evaluation. Thank you very much.
Gracias, muchísimas gracias, Wayne, por esa.
Thank you, Wayne, for that regional outlook and for keeping in mind that evaluations should be significative with the purpose of improving the decision-making process. We are also here with Dr. Nora Cuadra. She's the Director and Planning from the Ministry of Education in Nicaragua. She is a doctor in education and social intervention. She's got a master's degree in education and social intervention. She's got also a master's degree in Hispanic philology. She's got a bachelor's degree in educational sciences with a major in bachelor's degree in business administration. She has worked for 25 years as a university professor and has been responsible for planning and has acted as an evaluator of higher education institutions. She's responsible for institutional evaluation for the National Autonomous University of Nicaragua, Managua. Nora will be telling us about the experience of the Ministry of Education in Nicaragua and the use of the national assessments for educational improvements. I want to remind the speakers that you have a watch that is letting you know what time it is or the time that you have for the presentation.
Bien, buenos días a todas y todos.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to present Nicaragua's experience in terms of the ERSE results. With the ERSE results, we see that there is a coincidence in the elaboration of the 2022-26 education plan. And based on these results and national tests that we performed, we considered that we could include in the objective number 1 of the plan that is related to quality learnings focused in the skills for the full human development. We decided to include strategic topics that will lead us to exceed or to cover those gaps or to bridge the gap and that we have with our students. And this is connected with our educational model focused in the human being. And based on this, with an adequate evaluation or assessment with the focus in the learning for the full human development. What are the types of evaluations that we perform to monitor learning? We have the national tests in 2nd, 4th, and 6th primary school, in 2nd school, 9th year and 11th year. These tests evaluate the knowledge and skills in reading, mathematics, sciences, and in secondary school, these natural sciences are physics, biology, and chemistry. We also apply have these international tests, ERSE in primary school, and also tests that are ERSE, EGMA, and EGRA. Here we evaluate reading, writing, mathematics in 3rd grade, 6th grade, and science in 6th grade, and these ones are related to ERSE. As a product of this implementation of these international and national tests, we implemented strategies for the improvement in the learning process. The results of ERSE and national tests and the creation of the educational plan are coincident in time. So what's the process that we have carried out to share these results with the educational community? First, those who know are the ones that make decisions, and we are in charge of the management of services. This considers national and department and municipal authorities, and we inform the challenges that we face as a country in terms of the achievements in learning. So from here, we focus our lines on action, and we can see them that will be included in our education plan. Then we have a second level with those responsible for the curriculum programs and the policies that have an impact in the quality of learning. These include the directors and specialists in different areas. We are talking about the central part. Here we have the director of primary school, secondary school, programming and educational evaluation, the division of teachers development programs. And in this team, we analyze the challenges of the curriculum adjustments, we prepare pedagogical material that is adapted to this and that will respond to these topics that need to be strengthened based on those results from the learning process. We also focus in the pedagogic processes to complete actions that promote this learning. And then we have the educational community, where we have the pedagogical consultants, teachers, parents, and students. With them, we share the results and the strategies that will allow us to connect the improvement plans to be focused in these plans where we need to have an impact. We are aware that in order to progress, all the community, the educational community from the central level and the schools, we need to be informed of the strategies that we require or that we need to implement. So our 2022-2026 plan includes 8 strategies every 5 years for the development of these skills that will lead us to to have students with fundamental skills that are verifiable, such as mathematics, language, with quality learnings according to the 4 considered standards. So our national tests, those who apply them, those who create them, those who analyze them, are the technicians that have been trained by IESE. Then we have this integrated education, where I practice, or I consider the values, I look after life, I have gender equity, environment, and social emotional education. No, so it's not only that we are focused in maths or in language, but we also consider others. Another strategy is the update and strengthening of the scientific, pedagogic, and skills of teachers to contribute to the didactic revolution from the pedagogic practice. So we continue with the teacher's professional development. Another strategy is the consolidation of use of the educational indicators for the school management improvement. Then we have the families that are supporting us for the development of their children. Another strategy is the coverage and access access to education that is intercultural, bilingual, multilingual, and education in rural areas. We know that this is very important for the progress of our students, so we are focused in this initial education. We're also implementing, like since 2023, we implemented this national evaluation system for the learning. This system of evaluation is coherent and is related to curriculum with the teacher's practice, with the context and the skills for the human development. And also the implementation of a homologated curriculum that is inclusive, equitative, pertinent from the initial education until the end of the cycle. Within this, each one of these strategies that are for every 5 years, we consider these action lines that we will implement on a yearly basis. So in order to develop these fundamental skills of our students, we have different activities. I'm going to mention some. We implement the friendly with maths learning national plan, focused in the problem solution. This was implemented only in secondary school, but from the results that we have achieved, we see the need of implementing it in primary school. We also have these evaluations of friendly maths, where we have people from 6th grade in primary education. We have a virtual event in reading and writing. We have different festivals and reading days, or reading where we have secondary school students and primary school students, where we are focused in the skills of writing, maths, and sciences. We have also implemented the reinforcement plan for second, fourth, and sixth grade, the creation of readers and writers clubs. It's not only to have the student within the classroom, but having these spaces for him to learn or for her to learn. And we see this, we have these courses where we have these activities on Saturdays. We have these tele classes. That is a strategy that we have implemented since COVID-19 to reinforce the skills in maths, in reading, and in writing. These other tele classes are presented every Saturday, and they are focused in every degree or in every grade, and they are focused in different modalities. And in this integrated education with pertinence, we see these spaces for socio-emotional education. We included as a subject for dignity for women, and we have these strategies such as Valopolis, and considering all the results that we have had in socio-emotional abilities or skills. Also, we have this training for teachers for the socio-emotional education, environment, gender equity, and for the socio-emotional accompanying in risk situations, training about the gender policies. This is something that will be implemented from this year on, and the specialization to for this harmonious living. And so they reinforce in their families the socio-emotional skills for the update of these, or strengthening for these activities for teachers. We have continuous training.
Docentes del país, cada mes
Every month, we do this EPI, inter-learning pedagogical spaces, and we train them in didactics and scientific contents for teachers. It is a continuous training, and we also have 2 stages per year. The first one at the beginning of the year, the second one, it is in each of the semesters, and everyone participates. And we have different elements, skills, where teachers are trained. We continue with some days of experimentations, where we also integrate or invite teachers. In the case of consolidation and use of educational indicators, this is being done for teachers from schools make decisions based on information, which is being gathered through these indicators. We have indicators where we measure from schools of the permanence, assistance, attendance, the academic performance. Those are 6 indicators that we measure. And we're working so directors and teachers analyze those indicators, and they can implement some action plans from their schools. Later we have another strategy is related to families, supporting this educational process. We have implemented these workshops for bringing up children with love. These are gatherings where parents are receiving information about the advancement of their children. There's also implementation for this learning. We started this last year. It is a system where we are ranking this paradigm of learning by heart. Students are assessed now in a significant way, where the teacher is going to give information to the student, and the student is going to be aware of her learning and his or her mistakes. And we have an assessment system which is qualitative. It is something that we have it as a challenge for the future. We also have an homologated syllabus. We're updating our syllabus, educational material, which is coherent and pertinent with the needs of students. I also said that we have concentrated in the coverage and access of initial education because, according to the ERSA results, it was important. It is important the preparation of students in initial education or preschool. And with this, we want to increase the enrollment, and we have some visits to their families in order to increase enrollments and also for improving attendance. We give materials, supplementary materials. We have remodeled some educational centers with modern infrastructure. We're integrating children into festivals so they can also participate in different activities. And we pay attention to preschool in order to increase attendance and enrollment as well. Challenges, briefly, I only have a few seconds. Our challenge it is here in results because we need to improve performance in logic, mathematics, scientific communication, and linguistics. We need to reinforce the teachers' knowledge in scientific knowledge and didactics knowledge. That is a challenge, even though we have that continuous training in a continuous fashion. The transition from a traditional evaluation model to an evaluation center into the learning of students. As I said before, we have an assessment model which is going to be centered in order to reinforce the learning of students. We need to increase the enrollment. That is another challenge that we're having. We need to do some research. This is really important. Research and assessment of the impact of the programs which are being implemented. As we mentioned before, I mentioned some of those programs. Nevertheless, we are not measuring that. And that's why we're creating a direction and an Office of Research, Department of Research, to do the necessary measurement. Text and funding. So in order to not to exceed time, I'm going to finish my presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Nora. There is great coherence with the strategies that have been mentioned, and we also see some action lines concentrated in the classroom. Congratulations. So now we're going to have the experience of the Ministry of Education of St. Lucia. The presentation is in charge of Carmelita Matthew from the Ministry of Education of St. Lucia. Carmelita is the judiciary examination of the Ministry of Education in St. Lucia, a position that she has held for 12 years as supervisor of the Educational Assessment and Evaluation Unit. She is responsible for the preparation, administration, and reporting of national key stage assessment at the primary 2 and primary 4, those 2 levels. Currently, she holds the portfolio of CXS for localization for the CPEA, CSEC, and Cape and St. Lucia. Ms. Matthew has been an educator for over 25 years with a keen interest in assessment. She has also collaborated with the Ministry in the advancement of technology in assessment. Thank you, Carmelita. The floor is all yours.
Carmelita está muteada.
Carmelita, you're muted.
Tienes que activar tu micrófono.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Well, it's afternoon on our side. It's after 12. A good day to everyone. Thank you again for inviting me and the Ministry of Education to this presentation and discussion. And I am delighted to present to you on our assessment in St. Lucia and how it originated and unfolds, and gradually it is evolving into different forms as the years go by. So in our education system, we have our key stages, which is grades 2, 4, 6, and also grade 9, which is at the secondary school, which is Form 3. In St. Lucia, locally, we prepare our assessment for grades 2 and 4. In 2022, we moved on with CXC's Caribbean Primary Exit Assessment, which is the CPA for our grade 6 students, where we use the data, the composite scores presented by CXC so that we can assign them to secondary schools. But with our local assessments that we prepare in-house, we administer to grades 2 and 4. Previously, for one of the key stages, which is grade 9, we administered a key stage examination, which was a local exam. But when CXC came on with the CCSLC, the Caribbean Certificate of Secondary Level Competence, we moved on and we took on this examination and replaced our local assessment. And right now, we only have about 5 schools participating in this CCSLC examination at the Form 3 level. But I'll focus on our locally prepared assessments for the grades 2 and 4 students in St. Lucia. Okay, so our national assessment in St. Lucia, as I mentioned, key stages, grades 2, 4, 6, and 9. Locally, our minimum standards test is administered in May for both grades 2 and 4. And also we have a component, which is the school-based assessment, which is done during the first and second term of the school year. And we have the regional examination, which is done at the grade 6 level, the Caribbean Primary Exit Assessment, which is prepared by CXC and administered to our students during the month of May. And this examination also has an internal component where students prepare various forms of, they participate in various forms of assessment and the grades forwarded to CXC and added to the internal component, the external component, which is basically the test. So the minimum standards test that we administer to grade 2s comprise English language and a mathematics paper. The English language, you have an oral test, listening comprehension, and a reading comprehension paper. For mathematics, we have problem solving and objective type. And this we started in 2022. From 2022 onwards. So previously, even before COVID, in addition to this, we had an expressive writing exam for the grade 2s, sentence construction, following instructions, and also a dictation. So these we've discontinued, and we've seen the need to do the oral, the listening, and the reading comprehension with students. For the mathematics exam, we have the mental maths previously, problem solving and objective type. But from 2022, we have only placed the problem solving and objective type as the main areas to be assessed. In 2020, we did not assess students, 2020 to 2022, we did not assess students at the grade 2 and grade 4 level because of COVID. And we used prepared papers that we had, the papers we prepared for the 2020 examination, and we allowed the schools to administer these examinations without the ministry recording the grades that the students obtained. And from 2023, we started with this new format where we received grades and also we are able to make decisions based on this. So the ministry's information really started in 2023 for the minimum standards examinations. The minimum standards test at the grade 4 level is the same as it used to be before 2020. For English language, there is a paper of writing where students choose a topic and write an essay on it. And also there are multiple choice questions on that as in there as well. Mathematics, there is a problem paper and also mathematics multiple choice questions. General paper, we look at earth and space, science, health and family life, social studies, physical, and life science. So these are the areas tested for the grade 4. So the school-based assessment for grade 2 and 4, they both have a writing portfolio and a book report. But the grade 2s, we encourage just one piece of writing, whereas with the grade 4s, we are requesting 2 forms of writing. We are trying to model a whole school approach with the CPA program that CXC has implemented. So we are starting with the lower grades to move up and to ensure that when a candidate reaches the grade 6 level, they are familiar with these forms of assessment that took place at the lower levels. They also have a book report to prepare at the grade levels. What is the purpose of the minimum standards test? It is really for assessing and evaluating against curriculum outcomes and educational standards. We do have our curriculum at this point. The OECS curriculum, it's under review and it is being prepared at this point. Fostering a greater cohesion among curriculum, instruction, and assessment. We know that whatever is being taught, we definitely need to assess and to see how well students have acquired, have learned the skills, can display these skills, and to show that learning has taken place in the class through experiments and also carrying out various forms of research and so on. Monitoring changes and patterns in schools, and students' performance across educational districts. So we are able to, with the information received from these assessments carried out in grades 2 and 4, we are able to monitor the various schools in terms of the performance of students in the various components or areas tested. And we are able to, through the ministry, be guided by the statistics that we see and to be able to enact various programs for the various schools needing them. Also, just trying to shift this, researching best practices in assessment and introducing alternative modalities of assessment. So here we have the ministry ensuring that research is carried out on best practices in assessment that will assist the students in performance improvement, also assist teachers in best practices, and to ensure that our education system moves on in a positive way. Here is our grading system for our minimum standards exam. So we have identified a minimum standard of 60% and a standard of 60%. And we have, through our grading system, ensured that students' performance can be, there is a descriptor to the grades that they receive. So students who receive an A, it's very good, and they need challenging opportunities. Students with a B, that's a good performance, and they need to get enriching activities in the classroom in order to have them to explore and to be more creative in their thinking and so on. A student who is average has met the standard, 60 to 69%, and they need reinforcement. it's also needed there. We have students who receive a B. They are below the minimum standard. So there, they definitely need to have more attention given to them in the form of remedial work activities prepared by the teachers. So the teachers have to be creative and to be able to identify the weaknesses of students. A student with an E is weak and needs reteaching. And that means that the content areas have to be covered so that the student is able to move on to the next level. Less than 40%, that student is really poor and special attention is needed. So this is the grading system which is used. And after the minimum standards exam is administered, what we do, the unit prepares all the statistical reports, sends them out to schools, and also gives schools the opportunity to review their students' scripts to identify their students' weaknesses. Although we would give them various reports, but we still want them to be able to use the scripts and identify students specifically to identify their weaknesses and strengths and to create programs that will assist the individual students in the weaknesses that they would have identified.
Station. Station 6番は
Okay, so I'm just going to show you some of the reports that we prepare for the schools. Okay, the first one here is for a school, and it is a school roster where the composite score of each child is shown, the English language, mathematics, and also the school-based assessment score. So a school can identify the weak students in language, mathematics, and even in the school-based assessment, which was done at the school with the student throughout the two terms. So this is one of the reports that we present to the schools. Okay. We have another report again. This one is it's not expanding here. Okay, so this is a moderation feedback sheet that we would give to schools where it would indicate the students' performance in the SBA task that was administered during the year. Okay, we have it opened up. Okay, so we can see the sampling and the marking, the number of scripts and so on, presentation of work, content and skill development. We're looking at the development of all the elements in a story. This one is just looking at the writing portfolio. We're looking at the details. Do they appeal to the senses? So the teacher is able to see specifically for each student how their work was received by the moderators in the marking, what it is that they are able to do and what they need assistance with when it comes to their writing, as well as their book report, their understanding, comprehension, their weaknesses, vocabulary, their grammar, and so on. So each school receives one of these reports for based on the students' performance at the SBA. Another report again that we present to schools is a district report where the district's performance can be seen. So this is a District 2 report with all the schools in District 2, Educational District 2. And we can see students for a school 06. We can see the weak areas, not the weak areas, sorry, the number of students who fall in the 0 to 39 category, 40 to 49, 50 to 69, and so on. So they're able to identify the number of students at their school who fall in the various categories. And this is very good information for them. The last one is a district feedback form that we would send to the schools, and also the the education officer at the district would receive a form similar to this. So it would show the strengths of students, the teachers' marking, was it too lenient or was it good and acceptable, weaknesses, and any other necessary comments that should be made to assist with guiding the school in identifying programs and implementing programs for students' improvement. Currently, programs that are used at the schools are the Jolly Phonics program. It encourages the teaching of reading. We have 28 schools on with this program, and we have some other schools who are waiting for the kits. So teachers have been trained in the effective use of this program at the moment. Another is the appointment of coaches. Each educational district has been assigned 2 literacy and numeracy coaches to provide support to teachers. These coaches are expected to assist with guided interventions. Another is the continuous school and system improvement. Pilot schools under the Pearl project, they identify worthy problems to be addressed. The schools are responsible for the grant assistance awarded to strategically solve issues at their school. So they're able to identify by using the minimum standards information that we present to them, they're able to strategically identify weaknesses in their students and identify the programs that they need to address these issues. We also have diagnostic assessments. At the start of each school year, schools are expected to use diagnostic tools to determine students' reading levels to guide instruction. And this is done at all the levels, from kindergarten to grade 6. And we also have the observance of Reading Month and also Mathematics Month, which assists the schools in building the reading and also the mathematical skills that students will be needing in at their grade levels. So this here is the presentation of St. Lucia, the things that we attend to at the primary school level for grades 2 and 4 as a result of the locally prepared minimum standards assessment that we undertake at the Ministry of Education. Thank you very much, everybody, for your participation and attendance. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, Carmelita, por compartirlo.
Thank you, Carmelita, for sharing these reports, for sharing this feedback that goes back to the schools and to districts. And with the objective of listening to diverse voices from the educational ecosystem, on this occasion we're joined by the St. Lucia Teachers Union, Dan Howell, who is also representative of the KICSLAC. Dan Howell is a qualified teacher in Bachelor of Education, specialized in educational administration, and a master's degree in arts in digital technologies, communication, and education. Dawn served as the executive officer of the SLTU from 2008 in various positions namely public relations officers, general secretary, and first vice president, and he's currently the president of the Teachers Union. Don Howell also served as General Secretary of the Caribbean Union of Teachers from 2017 to 2022. And through his participation in the CUT, he has been able to contribute to regional initiatives undertaken within CARICOM and OECS. Don Howell, thank you so much for being here with us. The floor is yours.
Hi, and good afternoon, good day to everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. I would have heard before me some very insightful, thought-provoking presentations, and I hope that mine would provoke some more discussion from a different perspective, coming from that of the perspective of a teacher trade union. Proudly representing here the St. Lucia Teachers Union. Just to let you know that this short presentation will cover okay, there we go. Yes, this presentation will give a brief background of the SLTU and the work that we do, the role, our view on the role of assessment, based on the perspective that we are coming from, a summary of the impact of assessment from our perspective, and considerations for policymakers. Like the other presenters, I wouldn't be presenting charts of student performances, but providing points and insights that would allow us to take all of what we would have heard before and place it into the perspective of administration of assessment, and ensuring that the assessment arm of the education system is meeting the mandate that it is supposed to meet. And so we proceed. The St. Lucia Teachers Union, we are first a teacher trade union, and we are also a professional organization. We stand on two pillars. I also want to note that we are members of the St. Lucia Trade Union Federation, the Caribbean Union of Teachers, and Education International. So our foundation in teacher trade union in matters of education not only spans the scope of St. Lucia, but regionally and internationally as well. It is for this reason, because of our professional standing, that we support standards in education. We promote professional practice and development and ethics. And we also add to the debate on matters that impact the education system, such as assessment, as I am doing today. So, from the perspective of the teacher trade union, what is the role of assessment? National and regional assessment, in our view, have a profound impact on the education system. While I will make specific references and give examples to that of St. Lucia, I am sure that the experience of the SLTU is similar to other trade unions within the Eastern Caribbean region. From a union standpoint, education must be inclusive. It must promote equity. It must contribute to social justice. Assessment, being a key component of the education process, must contribute to the promotion of those values in education. Therefore, assessment must be seen through the lens of social justice and must bridge equity gaps, eliminating inequalities within the education system, thus ensuring that students with challenges, especially those, are not disadvantaged, and our educators, our teachers, are supported sufficiently to achieve their mandates. So, in the case of St. Lucia, the CPA examination is used as a placement examination for students transitioning from primary education to secondary education. The way students are assigned to school perpetuates the kind of stratification of our society that many of us have been advocating against. The top students go to top schools, and the so-called or labeled weak students are placed in other institutions to follow the same curriculum and program. This cannot be used to assess teacher and school effectiveness. There must be other measures in place in that regard. Why then are there not questions coming up like exam validity? Those questions are not given attention at all within the scheme of under discussion on assessment for educational improvement. There is need to revisit and develop policies to address this in our system. While the articulated intention of our national and regional assessments seem reasonable, the reality, the practice, the perception is what has a profound impact on the education system. Our major external examinations, CPEA, CSEC, and CAPE, are used to rank schools and students, and in some instances, used as a yardstick to determine teacher effectiveness. Even our internal exams, like our minimum standards exam, which are supposed to be diagnostic in nature, have developed a summative image. Hence, preparation. Hence, the preparation for those exams, the anticipation of the results, for the results, the response by schools to those results, the response of Ministry of Education policy makers, the response of students, the response of parents suggests that students are engaging in a summative examination when the intent of that particular examination should not be that of a summative assessment. I wish to refer to assessments that have a quality dimension, like CVQs, which test skills and are viewed only for slow learners, like for instance with the TVET programs. The negative stigma is attached. Subjects like civic education, citizenship, socio-emotional skills are underdeveloped and undervalued because there are no major examinations attached to them that give significant prominence. Yet those subjects are vital for functioning of our students while they transition from school to school, from level to level, or from school into society, especially if we are advancing the attainment of the CARICOM ideal citizen. Let us also bear in mind that assessment should be the starting point for further research, and I heard previous presenters make that point, to guide teacher training and to inform further interventions such as curriculum development and other support that may be required by our teachers and within the classroom. There is a lack of data-driven research. I commend the OACS and SUMA for this initiative on continuity of practice, the use of evidence in education by using a data-driven approach. But we have to do more on the national and regional levels. So, considerations that I would want policymakers to bear in mind as I try to utilize the time allocated. There's a need for us to revisit how we use learning assessment for educational improvements and to inform our national policy. In addition, we must find ways to change the negative perceptions of assessment. The following needs to be considered. Assessment should be used to inform teacher training programs and initiatives to support them in the classroom. continuous professional development, and even the certification programs that teachers undertake should be informed through the assessment strategies. It must be administered in a manner to stop the stigmatization of schools, to stop the stigmatization of teachers, students, and even other subject areas. It should support school curriculum development that removes stigmatization of certain subject areas of schools and of teachers. For example, TVET is for slow learners only, is really far from the truth. Therefore, the question that policymakers in St. Lucia, and I dare say the region, should consider as the move to develop centers, as St. Lucia rather moves to develop centers of excellence in sports and in TVET, are those centers developed for those students deemed to be slow learners? If yes, then it will advance a colonial view of education, creating a further stratification of our system, which will spill over into the community. I trust that this is not the case. It's a question that is being asked as St. Lucia transitions to create centers of excellence. Assessment must remove schools from competition mode into an evaluation mode. Schools and teachers are under too much pressure to secure a reputation in the eyes of policymakers. In so doing, important values are disregarded and the intended purpose of assessment is lost. Assessment should inform action research at the school level and that would also inform school improvement and policies at the national and regional level. I also want to say it should also inform the kind of program that are developed in various schools for our students. Colleagues, in conclusion, assessment should seek to inform interventions for our students, interventions within the whole school setting. And that we deem as an area that is lacking. There should be an augmentation of the research unit within the Ministry of Education that will find the root problem, the root causes of low achievement within the sector. Also, a reevaluation of the examination itself to ensure that it is meeting the needs of the education system. We need to find programs for teachers and students and curriculum interventions as well. We need as well, finally, to stop the perpetuation of the wrong interpretation of assessment. And that must begin by policymakers. So in other words, there needs to be a re-education of the system, and so that they understand what the assessments are supposed to do at each stage, so that the necessary support can be given where necessary. I trust that at this point, I would have provided a lot of questions and raised a lot of points for you to digest and to advance the discussion on assessment in the region. I thank you for the opportunity.
Muchísimas gracias, Don.
Thank you, Don. It is really interesting, this kids initiative. It is really important to listen to teachers, listening what is the participation, what is what you have to do, and we do it with great pleasure. We're pleased to listen to one of the representatives within this school or this union of professors. I want to rescue this topic related to we shouldn't have an education which is stratified if we want to advance. We need to create values. This assessment should inform and report and support students, teachers where required in order to support, of course, teachers. And we should try to find that root cause of this low performance in students. So now, thank you. We're going to start this Q&A session. And to do so, we're going to give the floor to Mar Botero from KICS. Mar? Thank you, Rosa. Well, I mean, we do not really have enough words to thank you all. Yesterday and today's session have a sequence which is logical and complementary of different perspectives. We have plenty of participation in the chat box. We also have a great variety of comments, perspectives, viewpoints from different countries, Central America, the Caribbean. But honoring time, because Don has to leave, I want to invite some of the teachers who are here in the audience. Please make some comments, a thought or a question for this panel. We know that Cesar Savio has been participating actively. He's a teacher from Honduras. I don't know. Cesar, would you like to ask a question, or do you have any thought? Or whoever is available here, willing to ask a question to this union. You can raise your hand or just open your mic. While Cesar Savio says the challenge has to do with the cultural change in schools and authorities, it is important to address what Dr. Don mentioned, that make us wonder about the current status of education. If there's no questions for the unions, teachers union, and we will give the floor. I mean, there's a question here coming from yesterday. Herman is asking from Nicaragua, and he mentioned the question. Nowadays, how can international assessment and regional assessment evaluations take charge of the particularities, social, cultural particularities, and how are they sensitive with those situations in the country? And this question, we'd like Nora and Carmelita to answer or to give some inputs about that. And directly, what recommendations would you do to these examinations or studies as ERCE and this test, CXC test, evaluations, because we are with the representatives here. Nora, would you like to start there with some thoughts? Yes, I was trying to take some notes. Yesterday, I mean, we saw that question and how assessments are taking charge of this cultural context. That is the question, right? So, well, I believe that this research, ERCES research, if we talk about ERCES research, we are quite within the context. It is true that ERCES only does an assessment or evaluation of learning in schools where they speak Spanish. We are not including the interculturality in other countries. We have many different languages in one country. In one country, we may speak many languages, but talking about international assessment or evaluations, I mean, that is not assessed. But with these national assessments, well, we get to those schools. And in order to evaluate or assess, we also create a curriculum, a syllabus, that didactical material in their language of this original or indigenous people first. But that is a challenge, international test. How can we assess or evaluate even those people, interculturality? It is important. Sometimes we're missing that. ERCES, it is adapted to regional syllabus and curriculum and national curriculum. We still have that challenge. Thank you, Nora. Carmelita, would you like to give us your views? How this international assessment, or regional assessment, take charge of these particularities of the countries?
Okay, for our local assessments, we realize that we are moving on to more international assessments and bringing in more creative forms of engaging students in assessment, and especially the formative assessments through our SBAs and also our internal components for the CPA assessment. We are able to bring out quite a bit of information that will help to guide the schools and also to provide that kind of foundation that they can use to create their own form of assessment that suits the needs and specifically the needs of the students in their classrooms. I'm not too sure if I have responded adequately.
Muchas gracias, Carmelita.
Thank you very much, Carmelita. Over here, we have a thought from Henry Satt, the coordinator of assessment of the Ministry and Research, Pedagogical Research of the Ministry of Education in Guatemala. I'm going to read her thought. And also, I believe this may also be a question for Don in order to know what his recommendation is. The syndicate in Guatemala does not agree with the assessment of the pre-primary, primary, and third scale. It sends messages for them not to do it, but they don't have any arguments to not to do it. They only have the diagnostic in the Ministry of Education and also assessment to graduated ones for them to opt to their degrees. In Guatemala, DGEDUCA reports the goals of each of the assessments. It is important that these are in order to mention, remediate, and strengthen the specific areas which are based in results which have been obtained. The accountability is also important. And they also mentioned that the relevance of having one cultural assessment, not taken as a threat, but also as a strength. Don, what can you tell us about this? What recommendation would you have in order to work with teachers and advancing in these challenges?
Okay, I hope I heard the question carefully. But from what I picked up, the work that needs to be done with teachers must start at the teachers training institutions. We must revisit teacher training in our various territories to see what programs the level of in fact the curriculum that they have at teachers colleges that is required for the school system. Because when they transition from teacher training into the school system, you want them to be at a particular skill level, to be able to deal with the challenges that come with assessment, and also to perpetuate the proper culture of assessment, and not to continue what we see happening now. We need a little more diagnostic examination. And I want to piggyback on something that was said earlier with as it relates to CCSLC. That is a midway point examination, regional examination, and which is almost seen as a summative exam. There's not a thrust, or we don't get a sense, or maybe there's a lack of understanding that this exam could be used throughout the secondary school system to assess what has happened in the lower school Form 1s, 2, and 3, to see what's happening with our students before they even get into, and maybe to have intervention and programs for them, and to support professional development of teachers before we set them off into the world of work. I hope I would have responded sufficiently to your question. but for us, we assessment on its own um, cannot determine for us teacher effectiveness. There are a number of factors that are involved in that, and the education, the advocacy on that matter needs to continue.
Muchas gracias, Don. En honor al tiempo, quiero
Thank you,
también
Don. Honoring time, I want to
la invitación que nos sigan enviando sus
invite
preguntas,
you,
porque
send us your questions, because those are important questions that we're going to, that we will share with the panelists in order to answer later. To conclude, I want to invite Carlos, Dr. Wayne. There's a last thought, so we can continue with the final thoughts. Dr. Wayne, could you please share one final thought from the conversation that we have had today?
Okay, thank you very much. Certainly the conversation has been enlightening. There was one question in the chat about whether or not the decline in registration was that because students were registering for other examinations or the declining birth rate. I think it's a combination of things, right? Students were not prepared and they decided not to write the exam during those periods. Also, the birth rate across the Caribbean is actually going down. So that would be a factor as well. And of course, there's certainly a mix of other exams within the region. As to the extent they refuse to write CXC and write another examination is still something that we would have to determine. But I concur with the sentiments being expressed that we have to look carefully at summative and formative assessment. I want to make the clear distinction, however, for the audience, that formative evaluation is not assessment. Formative evaluation is for you to determine progress, to give feedback, and for students to improve. It is summative assessment that would actually make a determination as to the student's performance. And that's why I spoke about continuous summative assessment along a continuum. So formative is for teachers to be able to give feedback and encouragement to students to improve, and continuous summative is to try along a continuum, making a determination as to students' performance. But I concur with this session, very useful food for thought.
Muchas gracias, Dr. Wayne. Carlos, ¿alguna
Carlos, any final thoughts that you'd like to share with us? Really interesting conversation. I just want to add, adhering to what colleagues have said, that this assessment, whatever the type, lives in a context of different complexities and different uses that may twist the purpose. If the use twists the purpose of the assessment, we're going to be wasting our time. With this, I mean that the purpose, summative purpose, lives at a niche, national and regional level, and also in the classroom. The topic is when that invisibilizes different uses of that. As an example, summative can provide information on how much we're advancing. But if that determines if we are going from one level to another, it has a different strength. I don't mean that they cannot live together, but we need to observe when we design. We need to observe the purpose, the different uses. So not only they are for the accountability, which is really important, but also it is also be used for the improvement. And from IESE, from UNESCO, we need to do, at least we try to reinforce, it is the importance of creating evidence. But if that evidence, if we are not able to agree on uses with teachers, then even if we do huge technical efforts in different areas, well, that is going to be limited. So that's why this meeting, it is so useful in order to open a conversation, in order to get into an agreement, in order to complement our viewpoints. So assessment, it is serving. It is not the main element, but it's a tool serving the well-being and the learning of students, acknowledging, of course, different situation purposes, And my other point is that we need to diversify the different ways of assessment, evaluation for different places, accountability, improvement actions in different levels, and ideally also in the classroom, as I believe our colleagues have mentioned over here. Thank you very much. Thank you, Carlos. Remember that we're going to share the recording, share the complementary material. So, Rosa, the floor is yours so you can close this session. Thank you, Mar. Thank you very much. I want to thank you all. I want to thank all of the speakers. It has been a great session, enriching session. For this closure, we want to invite Ramya. She is leading GPE's assessment, and she's going to address some words for disclosure.
Great. Thank you so much, Rosa, Mar, and all of the colleagues at SUMA. I hope that you can hear me okay with the volume. Is it all right? Okay, great. Yes. Thank you. Wonderful. So as Rosa just said, I am based at the GPE Secretariat. And of course, the KICS initiative is a partnership with GPE. And I'm based in Washington, and I'm our thematic lead for teaching and learning. So I just joined this webinar a little bit over an hour ago, so I didn't have the benefit of the full suite of presentations nor yesterday's session. But I just wanted to wrap up with a few closing thoughts, just in terms of, why learning assessment is so important, give a little bit of background in terms of what GPE is doing, and then just offer some very quick and, reflections in terms of what I have heard over the last hour or so. So I won't take too much time. But, we all know we've been hearing for a number of years now about the learning crisis. And, why, we've been learning that, there is, particularly in low and middle income countries, that there are, after the pandemic in 2022, 70% of children that cannot read with understanding by age 10, which I think we'll all agree is unacceptable. But the simple fact is that we can't tackle this crisis and improve children's learning if we don't have actual data on that learning. And so that's why the assessment of this learning, and more importantly, I think the system that enables that assessment, why that's critical. So at GPE, we understand, like all of you, that assessment can take on multiple forms. We've heard about some of the more traditional examinations, as well as system-wide assessments for the purpose of monitoring, whether they're national or cross-national, like the ERCE. And most crucially, the regular assessment that the teachers do in the classroom, either for formative or for summative purposes. So it's really, I would say, this assessment for learning that really privileges the use of learning data for informing policy and practice. And I'd like to echo here a little bit the last intervention by Mr. Howell at the St. Lucia Teachers Union, that assessment can also have a number of punitive, sort of consequences. And so I think we really need to, hone in on this aspect and ensure that whatever type of assessment we're doing, that we're using it for the purpose of improving learning. At GPE, we prioritize, like I said, not just assessment itself, but the broader system in which it's situated. That includes the context, including leadership, funding, the institutional arrangements, the coherence with broader education policy, with curriculum, with teacher training, and the quality of the assessments themselves, whatever form that they take. We know also that the COVID-19 pandemic, I think made apparent just how important assessment really is. During the time of the school closures, and I think that in a number of countries in this part of the world, the closures were quite long. Teachers and school leaders needed to innovate and figure out new ways to monitor how their students were learning. And of course, when schools reopened, we needed to understand where students were at and how much learning loss, if any, they had sustained. So for GPE, for the Global Partnership for Education, The core of our operating model is really about the transformation of education systems. And so we ask our partner countries, all of you, to go all in relation to one priority reform area that you think has the potential for impact at scale. And as part of this, countries need to assess the broader enabling environment that can either facilitate or hinder this progress. And one of the crucial enabling factors, in our view, is data and evidence, looking at the production and the use of this data and evidence in the education sector. We also look specifically at whether countries have nationally representative learning data that was collected within the last 3 years. Our partner countries then codify their commitment to whatever their priority reform is in what we call a partnership compact. And it's notable that of the 33 compacts that were endorsed as of the end of last year, 2023, 29 of them actually are focusing on some aspect of improving the quality of teaching and learning specifically. And as part of this, countries as diverse and geographically dispersed as Benin, as El Salvador, as Ethiopia, as the Solomon Islands, as Kenya, as Uzbekistan, they're including strategies and plans to improve learning assessment systems. And we know that KICS has also been working on this theme at both the global and the regional levels. Part of our approach is also very much to work in partnership because, as you know, GPE is a partnership. We're a member of the Global Coalition for Foundational Learning, which includes a pillar that's focused on learning data. And this pillar is trying to help countries to monitor learning progress and also to improve the availability of this data, including reporting to the UIS on SDG 4.1.1. But this is not new for us, this focus. Even prior to our current model, GPE has always been a leading supporter of improving learning assessment systems in our partner countries. Through our previous implementation grants, we've supported activities such as, for example, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, helping them to establish a national learning assessment unit. We've supported countries such as Burundi and Chad to participate in regional assessments like the PASEC. And we've supported the administration of national assessments in many countries. We also implemented from 2017 to 2020 a global initiative called Assessment for Learning, or A4L, which was really about strengthening the broader systems, but also promoting a more holistic measurement of learning. We able to assess, in fact, their broader learning assessment system and all of its pieces. We also provided, and that tool is available on our website in 3 languages, English, French, and Spanish. We also supported 2 regional networks on learning assessment in Africa and in the Asia Pacific. And we also did some initial work thinking about the assessment of 21st century skills and sort of broader considerations around 21st century skills. We also used to have an indicator in our results framework that actually monitored the quality of our partner countries' learning assessment systems. So for us, again, it's really about the system. It's about the importance of learning data. And so I'm really heartened to see that this resonates with some of what I heard in the last few presentations that I was able to listen to. Our colleagues talked about, from both St. Lucia and Nicaragua, the system in which the assessment is situated. Considerations such as resource allocation, teacher capacity building. I heard a lot also about alignment, that assessment is not something that's done in a corner by itself, but that we really need to consider what the resonance is with how teachers are prepared at the onset, but then supported throughout the life of their career, the alignment with curriculum and learning standards and textbooks. And then the last key point, I think, going back to our colleague from St. Lucia Teachers Union, what is assessment really for? As I said, for us, it's about learning. It's about using the data to be able to improve learning, to inform policy, to inform practice. And so I think that for me is really the key takeaway and the note that I would like to end on. And it's a collective effort that we have to deploy. We have to work in partnership. So it's really great to be here with all of you and to know how we can do that. So look forward to continued collaboration and working together. Thank you so much.
Muchísimas gracias,
Thank you very
Ramya.
much, Ramya. Interesting comments. To conclude, we're closing this session. We want to ask you for something. There's a question in the chat. It would be good that you could help us responding this answer, this survey in the chat box. Also, please answer our communication team is asking you to turn on your camera so we can have a group picture. So please strike a pose for this group picture. And finally, I'd like to return, I want to thank you all of the ones who made this webinar possible. I want to thank the ones who were with us for the Zoom platform and social networks. So we invite you to continue these social networks in Kids Lab Hub, SUMA, OCS, GPE, IDRC. So we also want to thank all of the institutions, ACER, OCS, OEX, UNESCO, Caribbean Examination Council, Ministry of Education of St. Lucia, Ministry of Education of Nicaragua, Syndicate of Teachers of St. Lucia, International Center of Research for Development, IDRC, and the World Alliance for Education. We want to thank you, the whole SUMA team, SUMA OS, for making this gathering possible. So thank you very much. So see you in our next meeting. See you around. Thank you very much.
Para los próximos.
Un abrazo, gracias.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gracias a los intérpretes, como siempre.
Okay, thank you all.
Bye, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Muchas gracias.
Hasta luego, Mar.
Hasta luego, Dr. Wayne.
Gracias, Rania. Thanks, Rania.
Gracias. Gracias a
Adiós.
todos.
Words.
Adiós, adiós.
Bye bye.
Y al
Thank you
equipo
very
de
much,
intérpretes,
Carmelita.
Thank you. Y al equipo de traductores, de intérpretes, muchísimas gracias de nuevo por hacer posible esto en todos estos idiomas.
Como siempre, un placer para nosotros. Felices de poder colaborar. Nos despedimos desde acá. Que estén muy bien.
Ya. Vamos a apagar la grabación.